Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. We're almost at 220,000 subscribers, so please consider subscribing. The story begins as we see a professor hard at work when he is visited by a representative from a pharmaceutical company. The man points out how the professor seems to be overworking himself, but it is undeniable that his research is world-class and many patients will be saved thanks to him developing new medicine. We are then shown what drives the professor when he has a memory of his young sister. He had to watch as the doctors gave up on her after determining her illness was incurable. Since then, the professor has dedicated his entire life to inventing new medicines, hardly allowing himself to sleep and relying heavily on snacks and energy drinks to keep himself going. After finishing up some work, the professor would write a note on his wrist and allow himself a 46-minute rest. It has been a while since he actually interacted with a patient and dreams of the day he might be able to become a town pharmacist. However, his assistant would return the next day to find that he had passed away. The professor would then wake up to find a girl by his side who explains that he had been struck by lightning. The professor instantly notices his voice has changed and his heart begins to race as he begins to realize what has happened. The girl would then reveal that his name is actually Pharma de Medicis. Pharma doesn't remember too much but realizes that he must have passed on from his previous life due to overworking himself. The girl introduces herself as Charlotte and notices strange markings on Pharma's body. She believes it to be a holy mark, but he explains that it must just be a burn from the lightning. Charlotte is confident though that it must have been Panactios, the god of medicine, protecting him. She is concerned to see that he has forgotten basic knowledge of the world and agrees to help him remember. Pharma is a member of the great Medicis family that is filled with royal pharmacists. His father Bruno is a man of outstanding skill and serves as the president of the Imperial School of Pharmacy. Pharma's mother is named Beatrice and his sister is Blanche. He also has an older brother named Paule, but he is currently studying abroad at the most prestigious school of medicine in the world. Charlotte then explains the divine arts, which are feats that are believed to be works of the gods. It's pretty much just magic, and Charlotte becomes worried when it seems like Pharma has forgotten all about it. The ability to use divine arts is the mark of nobility, and if he isn't able to remember how to do it, she fears he will no longer be recognized as a noble and be driven out of the estate. Later, Pharma remembers how she had told him that he is able to use the divine art of water, and must create a mental image of the form of water to use it. He gives it a try by imagining water's molecular structure, and finds that his markings begin to glow. Pharma panics as water begins to flow uncontrollably from his hands, and aims it outside. After begging for it to stop, it finally does, and he sees that Charlotte was soaked by it. She is glad to see that he remembers how to use the divine arts and doesn't mind getting wet since he watered the garden for her. Pharma is surprised at how easy that was and decides to try making other things. He finds that he is able to produce simple substances and compounds like gold and sodium chloride, but not mixtures. His left hand has the ability to create substances while his right eliminates them. Charlotte arrives to celebrate but realizes that he must have forgotten all his medicinal knowledge as well. This is especially concerning since his father often springs surprise quizzes on medicine during meals. Charlotte brings him to their library and explains that he receives special education in pharmacology from childhood. Pharma is then surprised to find that he is able to understand and remember everything from the teachings. He then joins his family for dinner as they all express relief to see that he has recovered. Pharma can't help but be sympathetic knowing that this family had lost a real son and decides he must live on as Pharma for everyone's sake. As predicted, Bruno tests his knowledge of the medicine used to help him recover, and Pharma passes easily. His father is pleased and instructs him to resume his lessons the next day. When he does, Pharma meets his tutor, Eleanor, who notices something is off. He is not calm or charming like he usually is, but she backs off when Pharma says his memory is just fuzzy since being hit by lightning. That being the case, she decides they will review the basics of divine arts. Those with the aptitude for divine arts each have a guardian deity. For him and his father that is Panactios, but for her it is Hydrotheus. There are 5 attributes of divine arts, which are fire, water, air, earth, and none. There are also positive and negative attributes for each. Pharma wonders about the none attribute, but not much is known about it, and it hasn't been seen in 300 years. He then wonders what someone with the ability to create any substance would be, and she simply says it's impossible. Anyone like that would be considered a god or a demon. Afterwards, Eleanor can't believe that Pharma forgot to bring his divine wand that is used to amplify and control the arts, so she allows him to borrow hers. She wants him to launch a spear of water, but he doesn't remember how, so she gives him a demonstration. After that, she reminds him to say the incantation out loud, and Pharma prepares to make his first attempt. To their surprise, Pharma manages to unleash an extremely powerful burst of water that sends Eleanor flying, and leaves them both in shock. She can't comprehend how he was able to use such power even without an incantation. She becomes concerned when she explains that the total divine power a person can use in their life is fixed, and he may have just used all of his. She uses a meter to test how much he has left, but becomes terrified when it breaks. Eleanor explains that it was a colorless capacity break, and showed both positive and negative attributes. She can't even explain exactly what it means since no one has ever exceeded the meter before. Pharma tries to explain that the markings on his arms are just burns, but she realizes that they are actually holy markings of Panactios. She explains that he can never grasp another meter again and needs to keep it all a secret from everyone. Afterwards, Pharma helps guide her as she lost her glasses and notices she is trembling, but she blames it on her lack of vision. He would then teach her a trick to help with their vision to find that he is able to detect that she has a sprained finger. Pharma notices that medical issues glow blue, and when he identifies the cause, the color changes to white. She is once again surprised and explains that Panactios perceives all illness and grants medicine. Pharma seems to possess Panactios' divine eye, and Eleanor is petrified now since that power is not human. What is even more horrifying though is that she notices he has no shadow. This sends her over the edge as she promises not to tell anyone and she runs for her life. Later, Pharma's father requests that he take some medicine to Eleanor, who told him that she is sick and has decided to quit tutoring altogether. Pharma pretends not to know why and agrees to do it. He would then determine that the medicine won't do much for a fever and make some of his own. When visiting her home, Eleanor begins to fear that he is there to eliminate her for knowing his secret. Pharma explains that he is delivering potions sent by his father, but she thinks he might be trying to poison her. He has also brought the medicine he made and ointment for her jammed finger, but she thinks those might be poison too. Pharma explains that he would never harm her and he still wants her to tutor him. She states that he doesn't need to learn anything since he is clearly an incarnation of Panactios, but Pharma is pretty certain he is still human. She pledges to keep all his secrets for him, but asks that he spare her wretched life in return. Pharma explains that he actually can't control his abilities yet and would like her to continue teaching him since there is no literature on the divine arts. However, it seems she has already made up her mind, so he apologizes for scaring her and thanks her for everything she has done for him. Later, she would debate taking the medicine he gave her. The god Panactios had been known for being kind, so she decides to trust him. They meet soon after, and Eleanor explains that she must still protect herself since training someone like him could be dangerous. Pharma is thankful, but she explains that she didn't have a choice, since she would feel responsible if he were to lose control of his immense powers. In fact, she is the one that is thankful since his medicine worked even better than that of his father's. The two then head to an uninhabited island where Pharma could learn more divine arts without worrying about his secret being discovered. Control doesn't come very easily for him, but the two are optimistic that it will come with time. Later, Pharma would use his divine eye to see and determine illnesses of the staff, resulting in a blue to white color change. While practicing this, he finds that the light disappears if he can determine that a full recovery is possible, but if it's not, then a dull light remains. Pharma thinks for a moment about how if his abilities along with his lack of shadow are discovered, then he will likely be arrested and in the worst case, executed. He formulates a plan to get people on his side to help prevent that scenario. As long as he knows the substance's composition, he can create it in any form. Pharma uses this ability along with his pharmaceutical knowledge to produce several treatments for the staff. The first recipient is Charlotte, who he gives cream to help with her hands drying from all the physical labor. She would like to share with the rest of the staff, but he explains that he plans to make some for everyone. He would then go on to give everyone their own specialized medicine for their individual ailments. They are all very grateful, some even to the point of crying, and Charlotte explains that it's because they have never received medicine from their bosses before. She explains that patients are typically selected based on social status. Pharma despises that, but Charlotte explains that the servants wouldn't be able to afford the medicine anyway. This only irritates Pharma more, and he begins to think how he can provide more effective